The fetal heart is complicated, but with ultrasound technology that evaluates it, it's getting easier. With half or more congenital heart defects missed prenatally each year, we would like to ensure that you have the right tools to help save your most precious patients. So with this, we took the opportunity to engage Dr. Balu Vaidyanathan, a pediatric cardiologist, to share with us his expertise on protocols for fetal echo. He has kindly agreed to discuss how he personally assesses patients in his daily clinical practice. I truly hope everyone finds this webinar beneficial, and with that, I would like to start the webinar with Dr. Balu Vaidyanathan.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us begin this webinar series by offering a prayer for all the human beings and the forms of life in the world. We are going through an unprecedented difficult times in the form of the COVID-19 pandemic, and let us sincerely pray that the world will get over this pandemic as soon as possible. We are going to talk about congenital heart defects or birth defects of the heart. For those of you who are not familiar with this terminology, it is important to understand that congenital heart defects constitute one of the most common types of congenital malformations in newborn infants. The prevalence is about 6 to 8 per thousand live births. About 25% of these problems are critical in the first few months of life. Now, congenital heart defects are an important cause of infant mortality, especially in countries where the IMR is low, that is less than 20. Now, in the Asian countries, due to large populations, there are a large number of children with congenital heart defects. Hence, it's an important child health problem in low and middle income countries as well. Now, what is the optimal time to diagnose a major or severe form of congenital heart defect? That is, during the pregnancy stage itself. We can talk about the fetal heart evaluation from different levels of expertise. At the primary level, at the very basic level, we are talking about screening for heart defects in all pregnancies. These are usually done by obstetricians or trained medical officers or sometimes trained sonologists. Then we have a secondary level of expertise where the sonologist is expected to diagnose the heart defect, provide a basic counseling to the family, and then refer the patient to a detailed evaluation by a fetal cardiologist. Most of these evaluations are done by experts in fetal medicine, radiology, or trained obstetricians. Then we have a tertiary level, which is usually at the level of a pediatric cardiac care center. Here, the evaluation of the fetal heart is performed by fetal cardiologists who are either trained pediatric cardiologists or highly specialized fetal medicine experts. Now we can discuss the approaches for antenatal screening for congenital heart defects from two perspectives. The first is to screen everyone, which is a low risk approach. And the second is to offer a targeted high risk study to a certain selected groups of populations who are known to have a higher risk for having a heart defect in the fetus. So what are these high risk cases? Now, these constitute the indications for fetal echocardiography. It is important to remember that only 10 to 20% of all heart defects occur in these high-risk pregnancies. The majority of the heart defects, about 80%, occur in pregnancies which are low risk with no risk factors at all. From the high-risk features can be discussed from three perspectives. First is from the fetal aspect. From the indications from the fetal perspective include whenever there is an abnormal heart on screening ultrasound. That is perhaps one of the most important reasons. Presence of extracardiac anomalies involving the gastrointestinal tract, spina bifida, and so on. Chromosomal anomalies including the bacterial anomalies, trisomies, Dijot syndrome, etc. Non-immune high drops is an important indication for fetal echo because one of the common causes of non-immune high drops could be heart defects. Irregular heartbeat, increased first trimester nuchal translucency, an abnormal cardiac axis, and infants who are conceived by IVF or ICSI all will constitute a relatively high risk group. From the maternal perspective, the important indications are maternal heart defects, maternal autoimmune disease with autoantibodies which can damage the fetal conduction system. Exposure to teratogens, metabolic disorders like diabetes mellitus or phenylketonuria, and exposure to intrauterine infections, particularly during the first trimester. And the third is a familial group. A previous child with congenital heart disease, paternal congenital heart disease, or family history of Mendelian syndromes like tuberous sclerosis, Noonan syndrome, or Dijot syndrome. So these are the high-risk pregnancies where one can consider a direct referral for a detailed fetal echocardiography or detailed heart evaluation right in the very beginning. Now let us see the first case scenario. So this is a typical screening scenario. So the patient is a 22-year-old primary gravida who is married for 1 year. There are no risk factors for congenital heart defect like the ones which we just detailed. There is no family history of heart defects. So the woman needs to undergo a routine ultrasound evaluation at around 18 to 20 weeks pregnancy. Now here, the person who is doing the scan cannot be concerned with just the heart alone. The sonologist has a whole baby to scan, and there are a large number of patients to be scanned in one day. So we cannot devote a humongous amount of time just for the evaluation of one organ. So the screening has to be very brief, very short, and should have a very high sensitivity. So what is recommended is a basic 3-view technique for screening. So the 3 views are the 4-chamber view, the outflow tract, and here we can see the left ventricular outflow tract, and then the 3-vessel view. I shall discuss the salient features of each of these views subsequently. So here we will just understand that for the basic screening, these 3 views will be adequate. Now studies have looked into the cost effectiveness of screening strategies for the fetal heart. People included different strategies like the 4-chamber view with outflow tracts, nuchal translucency, and fetal echocardiography. And this particular study, which is published in 2014 by Pinto et al., showed that the most effective and the least costly strategy was 4-chamber with outflow tract. Hence, for the population-based screening, for screening large populations, a combination of 4-chamber with outflow tracts, which is outflow and 3-vessel, would be the most effective strategy. Now let us move on to a second case scenario which has more risk factors. So this is a 30-year-old primary gravida who is 19 weeks pregnant. There is history of primary infertility for 7 years. This pregnancy has been conceived by artificial reproductive technology. The woman also has history of diabetes mellitus which is detected at 13 weeks. The first trimester nuchal translucency, the measurement was 3.2 millimeters, so it's somewhat borderline. The other markers were negative, and this lady has been referred to you for a detailed anomaly scan. So what is the recommended protocol in this situation? And one of the most easily applicable protocols which everybody can do are the ISO practice guidelines for fetal heart evaluation in the mid-trimester anomaly scans. This has been published in 2013. So let us see this ISO protocol in detail. So the ISO protocol involves a sweep across the transverse plane of the fetus from the caudal to the cranial direction. So as a part of the sweep, we will see a number of structures which are now shown. So you begin with the situs, which is at the level of the abdomen. Then on the cranial sweep, we get the 4-chamber view. A further cranial sweep will lead you to the outflow tracts. We see the left ventricular and the right ventricular outflow tract, one after the other. After that, we have the 3-vessel view. And finally, we have a 3-vessel tracheal view. So in the ISO protocol, by a single sweep in a single plane, you are expected to get these 6 different pictures of the various views of the fetal heart. And if all of them are normal, we can say that the fetal heart is normal from the ISO protocol. So we begin our examination with the abdominal situs. So the left and the right are marked. On the leftward side, we will see the stomach, which is marked as ST. The liver, which is marked as LI, is on the right side. Now we can see the aorta and the inferior vena cava, which are marked as A and V respectively. And we can also see the spine, which is marked as ST. So the aorta is seen to the left side of the spine. Again, the position of the abdominal situs, we can see the stomach bubble towards the left side. and the liver is on the right side. So we are moving cranially towards the fetus head, and this is this heart. We can see that the apex of the heart is pointing to the same side as the stomach, left side. So this is called situs soletus with levocardia. So this is again demonstrated using this movie. So I will freeze this and then move. Now we can see the stomach, which is on the left side, and when I move upwards, now we can see the cardiac apex is also facing the same side as the stomach. So this is again a demonstration of situs soletus with levocardia. Now most forms of like the heterotaxy or the isomeric hearts have got an abnormalities of the visceroatrial situs and the cardiac position. So this discussion will be continued in the next lecture on anomalies of the four-chamber view. Now we move on to the four-chamber view. So this is a scheme for the evaluation of the normal four-chamber view. So in this cartoon we can see the spine as a white triangle posteriorly. Above that the heart, the four chambers is shown. The most posterior is the left atrium and the most anterior is the right ventricle. You notice a blue dot between the spine and the left atrium. So that is the area behind the heart, and that is a descending aorta. So only the descending aorta will be seen. So before we move on to the evaluation of the four-chamber view, we can look at the heart size and the cardiac axis. Now cardiac size can be either biometry or by measuring the circumference or area. I prefer the circumference method, in which we have to trace the area of the entire thoracic circumference first, and then you trace the cardiac area and express it as a ratio, cardiac area by total thoracic area. So roughly the heart is about 1/3 the size of the thorax. The second is the cardiac axis. For measurement of cardiac axis, first you have to draw a line which is perpendicular from the anterior chest wall to the spine, like this. Then you draw a line along the interventricular septum. The angle which is subtended by these two lines is called the cardiac axis. The normal cardiac axis is about 45 degrees. So in congenital heart defects, the cardiac axis can become either deviated to the right or to the left, and it may give you the first clue about the possibility of an underlying congenital heart disease. Now we move on to the apical four-chamber view, and this movie is showing you all the features of the apical four-chamber view. So roughly the heart size can be seen. Then we can see the contractility